Hi, welcome to another edition of Tako Talk. This is the third season, so thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Stephen Tako, I'm your host, and today we have a special guest. We have Kyle Susser.
Hey.
Kyle, thanks so much for coming out on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you bet. Kyle and I have a long history actually together. When I was married, my wife and I were friends with another couple, Stacy and Ron, and we used to hang out with them all the time, and we ended up getting pregnant at the same time they did. And it was kind of fun. We went to birthing classes together, and then they had Samantha, and then we had Alex, and our kids were kind of growing up together. And then we kind of lost touch and whatnot. Life gets in the way, and then, geez, you know, when Caitlyn Jenner started coming out, you know, literally, you know, as transgender. All of a sudden I was thinking, gosh, you know, I've been doing this show for a couple years, and I would love to find a transgender person to have on the show because, as we all know, a lot of transgender, gay, lesbian people all end up having problems with bullying, people who are not accepting the lifestyles and whatnot. And so all of a sudden my son was saying, you know, started talking about Kyle Susser, and I go, is Kyle related to Stacy at all? And he's like, Dad, Kyle's used to be Samantha. Kyle's transgender. And I'm like, no. And he's like, yeah. And I thought he was pulling my leg, you know, because we were just talking about how I was trying to find a transgender person. You'd think he would have mentioned it.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
but anyway, so I was like, gosh, well, maybe Kyle would want to be on the show. And so I reached out to you, and here we are today.
Yeah, it's great.
So now Kyle has been very, very fortunate because he's one of the few transgender people out there, that, from what I hear of, that has not really had to suffer being the target of hate and bullying. So, but you said you do some speaking, and so I'd like you to share with everybody out there a little bit about your story, so that people out there can kind of feel out, you know, who you are. Like, how is it that you came about discovering, you know, who you really are, and then what you've been doing publicly about being transgender.
Okay, so basically, I started questioning my gender identity when I was in my probably about freshman year of high school. So I had some gay friends and stuff like that, and I started going to Gay Straight Alliance, the GSA, which is for basically people that are allies and people that are gay, straight, transgender to come and meet and explore their identity, get some information, stuff like that.
So it's like a support group or networking?
Yeah, it's a club that meets once a week, and it's a really good support system for people, and it informs a lot of people too that are just in general wondering about the gay community and transgender community and all of the people that are in there.
Help them have a better understanding and acceptance.
Yes, and they have them, I think, at almost all the high schools in the area, at least.
Oh, okay.
In a lot of areas.
Good.
So yeah, so I started doing that, and I found out about the term transgender, and I had always been uncomfortable kind of in my body. You know, I was kind of wondering, oh, you know, it'd be so much easier to live as a man. I think I would be more comfortable, started dressing more masculine. And so I learned a little bit more, and I looked up some information online, found some friends actually that ended up coming out as transgender. And what I did is I started coming to terms with my own gender and realizing that I feel like a male on the inside, even though I was female on the outside. So I was going shopping with my mom, and I went straight to the guy section to go shopping, and you know, she comes up to me and she asks, "Do you feel like a boy?" And I stop for a second, and I'm like,
wow, that's an intense question.
Yeah, I was like, well, do I answer this, you know, honestly, or do I kind of backtrack? And I went, you know, most of the time I do. And she just looks at me and she goes, okay, well, you know what, maybe we should start going to a therapist. And I said, okay, and we kind of just dropped it for then, and we went to a therapist, and we started talking, and we found a therapist, Susan Landon, who's pretty well known. She's on Caitlyn Jenner's show, actually. She's her therapist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we started talking and stuff like that, and I decided that I wanted to start going on to testosterone. So
And what I've known your mom, and she's always been a very sensible person and warm and loving, and but it must have been a shock for her as well. I mean, it sounds like she was very cool about it. You know, it's like, well, let's go ahead to a therapist. But any parent takes a look at their kids, you know, and I know being a parent myself, you take a look at your kids and you want the best for them, and when you think of, you know, all of a sudden your child who you're imagining is going to be living one way, all of a sudden turns out to be another way. You want your kid to be very happy, but you also take a look at the possibility of my child now becoming discriminated against, becoming a target of hate and different things like that. And that's something that we don't want for our kids. So that's the scariest part.
Yes. I would completely agree. That was one of my parents' biggest worries with all of that, is that, you know, am I going to be target to discrimination? Like, what's going on? Where am I living? You know, stuff like that. So I know constantly my mom's making sure, you know, where are you going, kind of information. If I'm going anywhere out of where I do live, then I tend to at least kind of research where I'm going, and I try to, you know, pass a little bit more, be a little bit more masculine and stuff, depending on if I feel like I might be targeted.
What do you mean you research where you're going?
I tend to look up online what, like, the hate crime statistics are for that area. If transgender people, there's a lot of them in the area. Like, if I'm going to San Francisco, I don't have to worry as much. That's a very gay inclusive area. A lot of people know it's like one of the big gay transgender areas that you're safe. But if I'm going to, you know, like a not good part of LA, I might try, you know, to be a little bit more careful and aware of my surroundings.
Got it. So a lot more safe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, you have been in a situation, you told me, where you're speaking out in, like, is it colleges?
Yes, so what happened is when I was in high school, I started speaking at the Gay Straight Alliance about being transgender, and then I met my fiance, and she started taking a human sexuality class at a local college, and so she was talking to the instructor, and they were talking about me and how I'm transgender, and so, you know, the instructor asked if I would like to come in and public speak during the week where they were learning about transgender individuals and gender fluidity and stuff like that. So I said, you know, sure, and I came in, and I've been speaking at the local college for 3 years now, and I'm taking the class right now. So I do that, speaking here. And
well, when you speak at the college, are you addressing college students that are coming in, and you're letting them know what?
So basically what it is by the time that I come in, they've watched a few videos, you know, about what it means to be transgender. They've read the part of the textbook. So I speak to that class about my personal experience, kind of like I'm doing here, coming out, how that's like, bullying. Sometimes I mention some statistics about, you know, the transgender community in general.
Can you mention some of those statistics that you talk about right now, so that our audience, you know, of people, because out there we've got transgender people, we've got teens that are questioning themselves. We have some people that feel like transgender people are being swayed into there by other people who are transgender, and then we have other people out there that are full of hate that are watching this right now, that are saying, oh, you know, because of religious this and that, whatever, or you know, and then they're trying to push their own beliefs and values and whatever on the transgender community. So what are some of the statistics? Because I've read some horrible statistics about, you know, all kinds of horrible deaths and parents killing their own kids and all kinds of stuff across the world. Not so much that severe in the United States, but you know, all over. So what have you come across?
I know that I'm not sure 100% the statistics of it, but a lot more transgender people are committing suicide and stuff and aren't getting the help because they don't know where to go. They don't have a good support system. So I think we just had another female to male transgender person commit suicide, I think, in the past week. So I know that we're trying to, you know, find a good support system for everyone so that doesn't happen. They know where to be safe, where they can go and talk to people if they don't have a good support system at home, they know that they have a really strong community elsewhere. You know, you have, with social media now, you have Instagram, you have Facebook, you have all these different places. YouTube is another big one where people are going, you know, I don't understand my gender identity, what I'm feeling like, so they go straight to YouTube and they learn from other people.
And they find the Tako Talk episode with
Exactly.
Kyle Susser on it,
Yes.
and they're like, wow, I found
so.
my kinship. And you said people can reach out to you on
Yes.
Facebook?
Yes, Kyle Susser, I know my name will pop up. And you can look me up on Facebook. Instagram's another one. That Band Nerd, I know, is my Instagram name. Yes. So I kind of post about my transition, and I know I follow a lot of other transgender people and stuff like that. They're in the area, across the country, across the world, and we've all become friends because of social media.
Well, you mentioned Caitlyn Jenner, that
Yes.
that her therapist is the same that,
Yes.
that you work with, and that's interesting because I have a friend that works on the show.
Oh, cool.
And and so, but I think that, you know, when Caitlyn came out, there was so many people that, first of all, I think there was a lot of guys, and I know some of you are not going to admit it, but there's a lot of guys that found Caitlyn quite attractive.
Yes.
And so those of us that grew up in the 70s and whatnot, you know, remember seeing Bruce Jenner on the box of Wheaties, you know, this American icon, you know, and then they're struggling with accepting.
Yes.
And when he went up on the stage, or she went up on the stage and looking all beautiful and talking to everybody, there was people in the audience, so you could see people were clapping, other people were just stunned.
Yes.
And didn't know what to think. And so now we've got Caitlyn, who's out there, who's making a big splash for transgender people. What are your thoughts about Caitlyn and about her coming out?
There's a lot of different opinions, you know, in the transgender community concerning Caitlyn. I honestly, I was talking about this the other day, is I think it's great. You know, people are saying, you know, that she's entitled to all these things. These are coming easy to her, which, you know, they are a little easier. She has a lot of money and stuff like that. But all of those years that she stayed in the closet and stuff like that, I can't even imagine how that was. And being that masculine icon, you know, for everyone, you know, hyper masculine around the world. And I think it's great, you know, that she's coming out, and, you know, her TV show sometimes it's a little meh, but it's bringing all of these great transgender people that are around, you know, around this world that are helping us, and they're plugging in all this information. And, you know, Caitlyn is learning with everyone else. She's just coming out as transgender. You're getting to watch that process of her learning what is correct and things like that. It's not only educational for her, but everyone else.
What advice would you give Caitlyn to improve her television show?
I would say try to look up more information, inform yourself, and maybe try to be more comfortable with yourself. Stop worrying so much about your outward appearance, but more how you feel on the inside. Because sometimes I feel like she's really insecure, you know, with how she is, and that's my one issue, is maybe they should have waited a little bit longer to give her a TV show so she could become more educated and comfortable with herself.
Right.
So I would just say work on yourself, and that everything will be all right, and you're able to, if you want, to help a lot of other people with all of the money and stuff that you do have.
See, Caitlyn, hopefully you're watching, and you're gonna pick up some great tips from Kyle Susser here. And I want to say, you know, thanks so much for you for being, even though I'm so glad that you have not experienced the type of bullying and hate and all that stuff that's going on, but you have been a light. You know, you're like a positive-minded person. You're coming out here on the show, opening up yourself. You know, saying, "Look, world, this is who I am. This is where I'm at."
Yeah.
And I want to end the show with you offering a little bit of advice for somebody who's out, like as you mentioned, in a small town somewhere, who doesn't know about the support. Where can this person find, other than finding you on Facebook and Instagram, but where can they go ahead and just like a last minute of advice that you can offer to them to help them out in their daily struggles?
I would say just believe that what you're going through it's real. It's not something that's made up and stuff like that, you can go to, the internet. It's such a great place if you can. Try to be informed, talk to people, find support groups if you can. Those are so helpful. You can, always, besides talking to me, but, watching people around the world, you've got YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, so many other outlets. There's Twitter. You can join those groups, and when you're having a hard day or a good day, you just talk to them. You get advice, you get feedback. There's people, in all different situations, people like me that are having an easier time with their transition.
Right.
But I also have met people online in the support groups that I'm in online that they're just having their families not understanding, they're homeless, they're, and you get to find out what are they doing to improve their lives.
Right.
So it's really a great resource. You get to meet people that are just like you. So when you're feeling alone and like no one else understands, there are people that actually understand what you're going through.
And you could put this episode on your phone and watch it every time you start feeling lonely or isolated.
Yes.
Just start watching Kyle and get these words of wisdom. So Kyle, thanks again so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
You guys, thanks so much for tuning in to Tako Talk. Have yourself a great day, and remember to always focus on what it is you truly want and surround yourself with positive-minded people like Kyle. Thanks, you guys, and have a great day.